This is one of my favorite segments, Vinyl Dens, where we check out cool music rooms from across the vinyl community and around the world. Let's check out what we sent over this time. This first one comes from Darren Hildebrandt in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. He's 52 years old, and he wrote, I am mostly into metal, punk, and hardcore, plus lots of classic rock, no rap or country, lol. I hope to have a slot on one of your episodes. Well, here you go, Darren. You are kicking off this episode, and it sounds like this was his old house. It sounds like he's moved since. You see like a realtor watermark on some of these images. First of all, let's check out this Rush thing. He says, oh, and by the way, that cabinet is my homemade box set for my Rush collection. The collection now takes up the whole cabinet. That's quite the Rush collection, man. You must be obviously a huge fan. So Darren is a basement dweller like myself. I've always loved basements for whatever reason. This is where my music room is, the bar, the movie room. I spend a lot of time hanging out in the basement. Anyway, let's check this out. It's got some records, got that Rush box we talked about. I see a bass guitar there as well. Holy CDs, man. Big time CD collector, big time Rush fan. I love the Motorhead poster on the wall there, as well as there's like a Kiss thing underneath it. Here's a full view of the whole basement. Great place. This is the kind of place I would hang out on a Friday night, right? Have a couple of friends over, hang out on the couches, play some music, maybe jam. I love the dividers too. I notice a lot of people do that with their records. For their dividers, they actually use old records and write on them as the divider. So yeah, totally works. And a very common way of doing. So awesome music room, Darren. Thanks for sending that over. This next one is from Tony. He says, my name is Tony, just Tony on YouTube, just Tony. I'm 58 years old and I've loved music for as long as I can remember. Me too, man. Music has always been a huge part of my life, and this is cool. Tony is another basement dweller. Welcome to the basement. He says, I collected vinyl from my early teens until around the late 1980s. Then I had to have the latest and greatest, which at the time was a CD player. So many of us switched to CDs, right? I switched to CDs in the early 90s. He says, I slowly got rid of CDs as well. Oh no, opting for streaming and digital files. And he says he did that up until about 2016. You wouldn't believe the number of people I know who got rid of their record collections after the 80s, then got rid of their CD collections. There's a lot of deals going on. And I know a lot of those people were kind of kicking themselves afterwards. Not all of them. A lot of people have given up physical media completely. Tony writes, I was gifted an Orbit turntable completely unexpected. I had an amplifier gathering dust in my garage along with a couple of bookshelf speakers, so I figured, what the heck? And I did some digging to find a record store nearby. He says he bought 3 albums, spent $15, brought them home, and dropped the needle. And he writes, this is really interesting. He says, saying that a flood of emotions came rolling in would be an understatement. All the reasons I loved vinyl albums and all the memories attached to a given album were overwhelming. The rest, as they say, is history. I've heard this from a lot of people who didn't realize that they missed the tangible experience of listening to vinyl and the ritual of putting the record down, moving the needle over, dropping it, and then the sound, right? Records do sound different, good and bad. You get the pops and clicks, but to use an overused phrase or word, there's that warmth to it, right? It does sound different. Check this one out. He says, this is a small spare room in our basement. That's my cleaning station. And also has his smallish CD collection. Awesome gear that Tony has here. He has, what does he have here? Wharfdale, Linton's, speakers, and stands. I love this record player, this turntable. It's got a Technics 1210G. Love the fact that Technics came back with those, and everything I hear, those are fantastic. Excellent equipment, awesome space. Thanks for sending it over, Tony. Check this one out. Terry from Canada. He lives in southern Ontario, and his system is to die for. His speakers are Sonus Faber, beautiful Macintosh amp. Which of us doesn't drool over a Macintosh amp? Terry wrote, his record room is a bedroom in his townhouse. It houses around 2,800 albums and about 6,000 CDs. I love these record store bins. It definitely gives the room that record store feel. And he talks about that. He wrote, record storage bins are custom made and designed by me. I'm a cabinet maker by trade. The lower sections are lit with an LED mini light. CD storage are racks purchased from a company called Bolts. Terry, man, you done it up right. Ethan, let's see what Ethan had to say. He says, hey, my name is Ethan. I am 31 years old and I work in digital forensics. This is a cool occupation. He says he basically gets into cellular devices that are involved in criminal cases in order to recover evidence. That's cool stuff, man. Ethan lives in Austin, Texas. Off the bat, the first thing that catches my attention is the artwork all over the walls. Ethan, I love the artwork. Let's see what else he has to say. He says, I started collecting records and vintage audio equipment shortly after getting out of the Army a few years ago. He has a Fluence RT85 turntable. We've talked about those on this channel a ton of times. He has a Pioneer QX949 quad amp that powers Wharfdale Valdis 400s. Those are speakers. He's got a ton of equipment that you can see here. Really good. Hard to believe he just got into this a few years ago. You done good, Ethan. You done good, man. By the way, if you want to submit your vinyl den, your record room, your listening space for consideration in a future episode of Vinyl Dens, check out the description below this video and you'll see there all the information that you need to know. And if you want to see more of these kinds of videos, check out the Vinyl Dens playlist on the Channel 33 RPM homepage on YouTube.
Channel 33 RPM.
Okay, this one comes from Julien, and he's in Quebec, Canada. She says, you gave me the inspiration to build, or should I say rebuild, my collection. Thank you, Julien, for saying that. Oftentimes, I do these videos, I'm just talking into a camera, and you don't realize the real-world impact of your words and the fact that they do have an impact. He says he only has 300 discs, but he loves every single one of them. And that's the whole thing, right? It doesn't matter how many records you have, as long as your collection is something you love. I know a lot of people have thousands of records and never listened to any of them. So what is better, having a few hundred records you know and love and listen to regularly, or a massive collection that never gets listened to? He says his space is located in his dining room, from where he can hear the music throughout his whole apartment. I love these record holders, and I think that Julien built them himself. He says, today I just want to share with you my vinyl storage because I like to flip my vinyl. I designed it to see the cover, and it's a joy to flip. It contains about 60 records in one unit. Awesome, Julien. Thank you for sharing your setup. Your apartment looks like a music collector's paradise. Okay, this one from Albert, another fantastic setup. Okay, so Albert writes, thanks for allowing me to show my vinyl den basement. We call it the clubhouse. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing it with me and with Channel 33 RPM viewers. He says his name is Albert. He is a 58-year-old Cuban living in Cumming, Georgia, which he says is about 50 miles north of Atlanta. And he says his music project, getting this all together, started in August 21 and was completed in October 22. So that's about a 14-month process. He says he has 3 systems. Check these out. He has an Audio-Technica 240 LP, and he uses that for grading records. He has 2 Technics SL1600 Mark 1s. We'll get to that. And he has a Fluence RT85. There we go. Another Fluence. He says he has a total so far of just over 1,400 albums spread over 3 areas. The first one here, this is the entrance, his video media room, where he also has tons of memorabilia, as you can see here, sports, movies. Then he has his record staging area. He says no record goes on the shelf without being cleaned and bagged using MoFi inner sleeves and outer sleeves and cataloged in Discogs. That's the way to do it. Then he has his Hall of Records. Check this out, the Hall of Records. He says it's mainly rock, hard rock, metal, punk, southern rock, country, and world music. And over here, he has his Rolling Stones Shrine. He owns at least one copy of every Stones studio album, hits, greatest hits, and live album. Now he is collecting the UK mono pressings. Awesome. And the third area says he has a pair of vintage mid-1970s Technics SL 1600 Mark I turntables. Now, if you're not familiar with the 1600 Mark Is, these are criminally underrated turntables, often overshadowed by the 1200s. They have that famous Technics direct drive motor, but they are fully automatic. So these things are designed for home hi-fi listening. You done it right, Albert. You done it right. Thank you for sharing. Okay, here we got Vel. He's 37 years old, and where is he from? From all over the world. He says he was born and raised in Croatia, spent some college time in the US, lived in the Middle East and Asia, and some time ago moved to Munich, Bavaria. He says after meeting his wife, he was forced to get a permanent base, but they do reside in 3 locations, 3 countries: the Philippines, Croatia, and Germany. That is insane, and that speaks to the reach of this channel and YouTube as a platform, right? There are all of us record collectors from around the world, and I love it. All right, 33ers, what did you think of today's music rooms? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to do a deep dive and check out more of these sorts of videos, I'll leave a playlist right here that you are going to want to click on. I'll see you there in a couple of minutes. Until then, keep on spinning.